everybody, it's Laura, and welcome to the class of 74. Where we were last week, Cynthia was sitting with Evan in the front row of the famous Brighton High pep rally until, of course, somebody pulled the fire alarm. And then outside, our captain of the football team, Teddy, took Cynthia away to meet somebody. He said somebody wanted to meet her. So she went with him. And where we left her was she was looking at this football player standing in front of her. And now we'll go see who he is. I'll catch you on the other side. Have fun. Season 2, Episode 12, Different Cultures. Victor Wronski, standing right here in front of Cynthia. She had never seen him this close before. He was huge. And the memory of seeing Evan flee the cafeteria that day, light and nimble and fast, and this giant crashing his way through the tables, enraged, determined to get Evan, that image would never leave her. But Victor had not caught up with Evan then. He had waited, watching, no doubt with help, for the moment when, during a change between classes, Evan was alone in C Wing with his back to Victor's approach. He had been waiting for the captain of the soccer team, Andrew, to get out of Miss Quincy's calculus class. Right there in front of Miss Quincy, Victor Wronski had charged, first banging Evan's head into the lockers and then hurling him to the ground. He backed up a step and then launched himself through the air to land on Evan in a body slam. Then he rolled off and went charging out the exit. No one knew how Evan could possibly have stayed conscious, but he had. And everybody at the time was stunned at how he got right up on his feet, weaving only for a few seconds, and then tore off outside after Wronski, with Andrew following. Evan could have died from his head injury. He still could, because no one seemed to know what was going on inside his skull for sure. And Evan refused to have that metal dye stuff injected into his brain. Evan's parents had backed him up. The test itself was too dangerous to risk, so they hadn't done it. So here was Victor Wronski, the young man responsible for almost killing him. The Victor Wronski Dr. Whitaker, Evan's father, had shielded from the police because Victor agreed to go into the hospital to get off the massive amount of steroids he was taking. Only Mr. Wronski's insurance wouldn't cover treatment. So Victor left. Hi, Cynthia. Cynthia was taken back by how soft his voice was. Gentle, even, like how her dad's voice was when he came into her room when she was sick. Confused, she looked at Teddy. Go ahead, Vic. Wait, let's go over there. They moved a little distance away, the other football players politely turning their backs to their captain to afford him some privacy. Standing next to Teddy, who was number 12, and standing in front of the 6'3", Victor Wronski, number 17, Cynthia felt like the stewardess in that sci-fi show she used to love, Land of the Giants, the one where a flight from Los Angeles had somehow landed on another planet where every living creature was 10 times the size of Earth. Victor Wronski was looking at Teddy, swallowing and nervously licking his lip. He was very homely. He had sort of washed out blue eyes. His skin was all broken out in zits. The bland features of his big, round face seemed almost doughy. Teddy bobbed his head slightly in encouragement. Victor Wronski's eyes came over to her. Oh my God, Cynthia thought. This big, bad, steroid-crazed monster was scared. I'm really sorry about what I did to Evan. It was that soft voice again, a lot higher than she had expected. One would think a big guy like this would have a deep voice, but he didn't. Teddy says you know why I'm so screwed up. Cynthia blinked several times. She didn't know what she'd expected him to say, but it hadn't been this. He swallowed again. A doctor is helping me. Actually, a couple of doctors. One for the junk in my system. And one for, he pointed to his own head. Ding dong, He suddenly grinned, showing a gap on the front right of his teeth. Oh, so that was what Evan did to him. I'm trying, Cynthia, And Evan said he's okay with me being back at school. Oh, really? Cynthia thought. This was news to her. Strange Evan hadn't said anything to her about it. Victor Wronski was looking at Teddy again, who once again bowed his head slightly, urging Wronski to continue. The watery blue eyes were back on her. Ted says you could blow up my whole life if you wanted. Me? Cynthia said. What does any of this have to do with me? I'm helping the cops, Wronski whispered. I'm helping them to nail the bastards who hurt Clay Seaton. Cynthia turned to Teddy. Teddy said, I'm doing what I can, too. Cynthia felt lightheaded and a little nauseous. I'm glad, she said. She looked up at Victor Wronski and didn't know what else to do, so she held out her hand. He took it in his big hand. Oh, it was so gross. It was so sweaty. There you are, Mimi's voice cried. Cynthia, come on. Kathy's mother's going to give us a ride home, but we've got to get to the edge of Sea Wing. I'll be there in a sec. And she turned to Teddy. She felt inexplicably close to him right now. She touched his arm. Thanks for helping. Then she turned to Victor Wronski. Reliance is downtown now, the place with the hotline. The director knows an awful lot, and he's a really cool guy. Sean Robeson, Victor Wronski said. That's how I found the Ding Dong doc, from Robeson. Cynthia laughed a little, thinking, wow, small world. You can call him a psychiatrist, Teddy said. No, I can't, Victor said. I swore to my father I'd never say that word. He looked away. He doesn't want anyone to know. After a moment, Cynthia said, Teddy mentioned your dad played football for West Point. Victor's nostrils flared slightly as he nodded. Yeah, he was a big deal. Back injury kept him out of the pros, though. Otherwise, he could have made it. Car accident, right? Teddy asked. Yeah. One side of his mouth cinched up slightly. He drove into a tree. Cynthia felt deeply sad for Victor Wronski and wondered how he was helping the police. She wondered how much he knew. Oh, to nail whoever hurt Clay. That would be good. As Cynthia limped with Mimi and Kathy down the main hall of the school, they saw Clarke backing out of the audio-visual room, pulling a huge cardboard cube on a dolly. The box was as high as Clarke's pocket protector. The box said IBM in big letters on the sides. Good job bailing out Dr. Mullen on the microphone, Cynthia called to him. Clarke scowled. He did exactly what I told him not to. Appeared to be a tad exasperated still. And they say we don't listen. IBM, Kathy said. Is that a computer? Clarke squinted at Kathy. I remember you. Your family came with Louisiana Purchase. What? Cynthia laughed. My family's land, she said, correcting him. They woke up and found out that they were Americans suddenly. So you are French, Mimi said. A really, really long time ago. I had to do it, Clarke said to Cynthia, as if she had the slightest idea what he was talking about. I asked nicely, and they said no, I couldn't take it. They needed it. But it was sitting right there in front of me, like I didn't know what it was. What was? The dolly, he said, pointing under the cube. I couldn't move it without it, so I had to do it. Do what? His face froze, his eyes widening a little as he swept his eyes from right to left. You know, he said, barely moving his mouth. No, Cynthia said, I don't know. Mimi suddenly laughed. He pulled the fire alarm. Clarke quickly shushed her and said to come on if they were coming. He had to get this box to the computer lab and return the stupid dolly. Clarke, it's like a federal offense or something. I had to get it. What's in there anyway? Paper. An IBM 3211 high-speed printer from Endicott, New York is arriving tomorrow. For us. For our school. Is that a good thing? Kathy asked. It's top of the line. It's the smallest printer in the world. It's only 4 feet 9 inches long and 4 feet and a half high. What's a printer? Mimi asked. I think it's like a really fast typewriter, Cynthia said. Only the paper never ends. Is the paper in a roll, Clarke? Like the paper for newspapers? Remember when we went to the paper on that field trip? No, it's folded. And it's perforated. It's got holes on the sides so the tractors can pull it through the machine smoothly. Tractors? Mimi said. What do tractors have to do with computers? They walked next to Clarke as he rolled his huge cube of paper through the intersection to the computer room. The computer room had a solid wall of frosted glass that always looked a little scary because there was big stuff in there, like big Victor Wronski's in there or something. You couldn't make out exactly what it was that was in there, but it was big. How big is the computer? You've never seen the computer? Clarke asked, surprised. Come on. No one will be back here yet. The girls followed Clarke in, and Cynthia was not sure what to make of what she saw. First, it was cold in here. There had to be air conditioning or something. Good to know. Across the room, along the far wall, were 4 blue-gray metal cabinets. They had to be 6 feet tall and at least 3 feet wide, lined up, shoulder to shoulder, all with little blinking lights. The one farthest to the left had a large single tape reel that was turning very slowly, which seemed slightly hypnotic to Cynthia. There was a short wall separating the cabinets from the rest of the room. Near them was an empty chair in front of a low console where there were all kinds of switches and lights. Suddenly, a machine to their right burst to life with rapid-fire metal noise, spewing a stream of white, narrow paper. Teletype, Clarke explained. That paper's on a roll, Cynthia. He walked over to look, but not touch. Someone's working out a logistics problem, he said. There are a couple terminals down in Mr. C's classroom in A-Wing. Do a lot of people use this? Mimi asked. There's like 40 of us, maybe. Can't believe you pulled the fire alarm, Clarke. He shrugged. Big deal. pep rally. They wouldn't even let Linda Mastromonaco do a cheer. They made her stand with all the other girls, those JV girls, along the wall. Linda Mastromonaco had been in their class at Dean. Cynthia wondered if Clarke liked her. If he did, it would be the first time he had ever expressed interest in a girl. She doubted Linda would give him the time of day. Well, you never knew. The girls thanked Clarke for the tour and walked to the parking lot. Mrs. Smith was driving one of those really long Cadillacs. Wow, Cynthia thought. And it only had 2 doors. The biggest, longest sedan she'd ever seen, but it only had 2 doors. What family drove any car with 2 doors? What family drove a big aqua-colored Cadillac with only 2 doors and a white vinyl roof? Cynthia had never seen a car like that in Brighton before. What a pretty car, Cynthia said. Oh, it's Daddy's. He's crazy about caddies. Mama doesn't like it, but her car's in the shop. She says it looks like something the owner of a whorehouse in Port Fourchon would drive. The girls laughed. Cynthia said maybe Kathy should run ahead and ask her mother first about giving them a ride. Kathy ran ahead, talked briefly to her mother, and waved them to the car. Kathy and Mimi then climbed into the back seat, and Cynthia had no choice but to sit up front with Kathy's mother, whom she had never met. Mrs. Smith was not your usual mother in Brighton. She was very fat, something one didn't often see in Brighton, not in mothers under 60. But Mrs. Smith had a very beautiful face, sparkling green eyes, and a very fetching smile. These girls are going to make me crazy with this fashion club, she told Cynthia, which made Cynthia laugh. Mrs. Smith glanced over at her. You too, driving you crazy? Cynthia smiled and nodded. Imagine being fat and having a daughter who wants to design clothes for skinny girls. She asked Cynthia where her house was, and Cynthia directed her. So Kathy tells me Mimi's living with y'all. She's staying with us, Cynthia said. Mimi invited her to spend the night tomorrow night, but I said I needed to talk to your mother first. Well, my parents are just coming home today from a trip. I'm sure it'll be all right with her. Well, where were your parents? Just Washington. Dad had a business thing. He goes there a lot. Well, what kind of work does your daddy do? He's a financial officer for Ideal Standard. Why, another glorified bookkeeper, just like my husband. My mama taught me if a woman wants financial security, then she needs to find a husband who won. She stuck a finger out from a hand that was glittering with diamond rings. Works at a good corporation. The bigger the better. 2, is in charge of all the money. And 3, is boring as hell, so no other woman will chase him. Then she let out a big, rollicking laugh that couldn't help but make Cynthia laugh. Mama, Kathy complained. Can I call you Cindy? Mrs. Smith asked. If you don't mind, I prefer Cynthia. Mind? Why should I mind? It's a lovely name. She looked in the rearview mirror and raised her voice. If my Cornelia Frances would use her God-given name, it's Kathy. I'm not being called Corny anymore, Mama. What a name! Mrs. Smith took her hand off the wheel to hold it out. Kathy Smith, have you ever? She demanded of Cynthia. How in God's green earth could I have a daughter who wants to sound like a sweepstakes winner from Iowa? Cynthia burst out laughing again. Mrs. Smith was very funny. You know, Mrs. Smith, Cynthia said, if the fashion club really goes well, one day she just may be called Kathy. You know, like Colette or Cher. or Bibi, came from the back seat, whose fashioned house in Paris will be right next door to the design domicile of Cath. Simply Cath. Cath, Cynthia repeated, turning to Mrs. Smith. It is kind of catchy. It should be the house of Cornelia Francis, Mrs. Smith insisted. There was a car parked in Cynthia's driveway. For a second, she didn't recognize. Then when she saw the California license plates, she realized it was the same Saab she had seen in the Langstons' driveway. Katie Langston. What was it doing here? Who's here from California? Mimi asked. I think it belongs to Katie Langston's family. I don't want to barge in on your mother when she's entertaining, Mrs. Smith said. I'm not sure what's going on, Cynthia said. Why don't I run up and see? No. I think I should call your mother when I get home. That way I can pretend I don't know she's entertaining. Now, Cornelia Francis, are you moving up here? Or you going to ride around that back seat like Elizabeth Taylor? Riding around like Cath, the famous dress designer. Mrs. Smith's hand came off the steering wheel again. My pride and joy. Kathy Smith, best chocolate chip cookie in Iowa. Goodbye, ladies. Nice to meet you, Cynthia. The girls walked towards the house, went up the stairs. Do your parents even know Katie's parents? Our dads met when we dropped Katie off once. Cynthia cocked her head, listening. Okay, now she heard Ashette barking. They opened the back door. Mom? Cynthia called. Dad? I'm home. She dumped her books on the counter, watching Ashette skidding into her first turn into the den. Mimi put her books down on the kitchen table. This was weird. It was so quiet. Cynthia looked around for a note. Aha! On the bulletin board. Darling Heart, parentheses, and Mimi, exclamation mark. So good to be home, exclamation mark. Had to zoop. That was one of her mother's favorite words. Somewhere between dash and fly was the verb zoop, to zoop between one place and another. Had to zoop your father over to Dr. Stonefield's and then run a couple of errands. Do you know whose car that is in our driveway? Question mark, question mark, question mark. It was there when we got home. Mrs. Valadera says she has no idea whose car it is. We should be back by 4. Can't wait to see you girls. Love, Mom. Cynthia heard a car turning into the driveway and ran over to the sink window to look out. It was a black sedan. She had no idea what kind. The car parked. The passenger side door opened. One high heel appeared, then another, both shocking pink. The figure stood up. It was the Senora. What was Senora Cordova doing here? But that wasn't the end of the strangeness, because she walked over to what she thought was the Langstons' car, unlocked the door of the Saab, and got in. Well, you know, it's funny about this program. You ever notice how every character seems to end up in Cynthia's driveway at some point? I don't know. Well, you're going to have to wait till next week to find out what the Senora is doing in Cynthia's driveway. I want to thank you for listening. And I do have to remind you, we have the Detention Club. You go to patreon.com and type in the class of 74. and there you will find us. As I keep telling you, these are the nicest people in America who join the detention club, and I'm not kidding. Please remember, we don't drink and drive anymore. Ever. But we do have fun. And you're fun. And this is fun. I'll see you next week. Have a fabulous one. Take care, and God bless. Bye.